Have you ever wondered about those sneaky hideouts that kept the Old West gang safe and sound? Well, hold on to your 10-gallon hats because we're diving deep into the history behind the perfect hideout for the Old West gang. Back in the days of tumbleweeds and showdowns, the Old West was a real hotbed of action. Settlers, pioneers, and plenty of outlaws tried to make their mark west of the Mississippi. Yes, it was a time when the good old law was dancing with the notorious outlaw crews. Now, you might have heard of a few big-name lawmen like Pat Garrett and Wyatt Earp, but let's be honest, it's them outlaws that stole the show. Billy the Kid, the Dalton brothers, Jesse James, the whole shebang. These varmints knew how to make history and a whole lot of trouble. What's the secret to their survival, you ask? Well, these gangs weren't just shooting from the hip. They had hideouts, and boy, were they hidden. These rascals banded together, sharing secret spots where they'd lay low, away from the long arm of the law. So you're itching to know how these outlaws kept one step ahead. Stick around. We're rustling up stories of desperados, dusty trails, and the perfect hideaways that wrote themselves into the annals of the Wild West. Don't mosey on out of here. This video is going to be a real hoot. Let's get to the real deal. Now picture this. Nestled in the rugged Bighorn Mountains of Wyoming, there's a place that sounds like it's straight out of a movie, the Hole in the Wall. But hold your horses, because it's not just a hole, it's a whole pass. And this wasn't your ordinary pass, no sir. It was the ultimate hideout for those outlaw cowboys and cowgirls who wanted to lay low and avoid the long arm of the law. So what's the deal with this place? Well, imagine a valley and canyon combo sandwiched between the imposing red wall and the Bighorn Mountains. It was like the ultimate hide-and-seek spot for those troublemakers. And hey, no judgments, the Hole in the Wall was like the VIP lounge of hideouts. It was so remote that even the road to get there was like, nah, I'm not in the mood today. Now here's where the name comes from. There's this hole in a rocky wall, kind of like a secret backdoor entrance. Outlaws would use it as their secret passage, which sounds like something straight out of a spy novel, right? But wait, there's more. Getting to this hideout was no Sunday stroll. It was a full-on horse ride adventure that took at least the whole day. And once these outlaws were up there, oh boy, they had the ultimate lookout spot. Just imagine perching up on that wall, scanning the whole area like a hawk. Outlaw guards had the best seat in the house. And you know what's even cooler? The paths leading to this hideout were like, hey, let's make them narrow and impossible to conquer. Now let's talk about the digs. These outlaws weren't just roughing it out in the wilderness. They had cabins, stables for their trusty horses, and even chambers to stash their loot and supplies. It's like they were the original glamping trendsetters. And guess what? The gangs that called this place home actually pitched in to keep it in tip-top shape. It was like a community effort, Outlaws region. Fast forward to the juiciest part of the story, the infamous names that called Hole in the Wall home. We're talking about the baddest of the bad, the Roberts brothers, the Jesse James gang, and the notorious Butch Cassidy's Wild Bunch, just to name a few. They didn't just chill here. Oh no. They hatched their wild plans, had their powwows, and caught some much-needed shut-eye. But hold on to your cowboy hats, because it wasn't a free-for-all. Each gang had their own cabin and space, and there were some ground rules. Stealing from fellow outlaws? Nope, not allowed. And if there was a dispute, they had a process for sorting it out. Think of it like their own outlaw code of honor. For about half a century, from the 1860s to 1910, this hideout was like the place to be for the outlaw elite. And guess what? In all those years, no lawman managed to bust in. Talk about a fortress. But like all good things, the party eventually came to an end around 1910. And today, getting to this place is still like an epic quest. There's a dusty road connecting it to the outside world, making it feel like you're stepping into a time warp. The Hole in the Wall is a slice of Old West history that's wilder than a bucking bronco, and cooler than a saloon on a scorching day. So imagine you're on the lam making a run for it. You're scaling this tight pass that's been carved into this towering canyon wall. You claw your way up, heart racing, and suddenly, bam, you're out of the narrow squeeze and into this hidden valley. It's like Mother Nature's own secret getaway spot, nestled snugly between these Bighorn Mountains and the badass Red Wall. The hole in the wall is the real deal. Not only did it give fugitives a break from the law, but it also shielded them from Wyoming's moody weather. Now get this, when winter rolled around, even if you hadn't just pulled off a big heist, you'd find these bandits hunkering down in the hole in the wall. Why? Because there's this creek nearby that keeps the place lush and green. Perfect cover for those rustlers. They'd stash their loot and keep their stolen critters fed and watered. And the best part? It's a day's horseback ride from civilization, so it's like a secret hideout with killer views. This hideous hotspot was all the rage back in the mid-1800s. Butch Cassidy and his gang, the Wild Bunch, were like the rock stars of this place. And they weren't alone in their outlaw escapades. Jesse James, the Roberts brothers, and even Jack Ketchum, they all had a taste of the hole-in-the-wall action. These dudes were so infamous that they ended up being called the Hole-in-the-Wall Gang, even though they didn't exactly team up like in some epic movie. They set up shop, building cabins, a stable, and whatever else they needed to kick back and plot their next moves. They even formed a sort of outlaw alliance to keep other troublemakers out of their hair. As we crossed into the 21st century, things took a different vibe. These wild days of train heists and cattle rustling that screamed Wild West slowly started to fade. The rowdy outlaw gangs packed up their bags and left their secret hideaways behind. But guess what? The hideaway itself, that valley, it's still there. These days, it's part of the Willow Creek Ranch, a working cattle and horse ranch about 30 miles southwest of Casey, Wyoming. If you're feeling adventurous on the ranch, you can hop on a dirt road that winds through the valley and leads you up to a pass. From there, it's half a mile hike on a trail that lands you on top of the Red Wall. Imagine catching a view from where the Hole-in-the-Wall Gang kicked back in the day. But the adventure doesn't have to stop there. If you're up for more mileage, you've got options galore. Take a road trip south for around 90 miles and find yourself chilling in Casper for a few days. Feeling more like a northern route? Buffalo is about 70 miles up the road, ready to show you a good time. And if you're in the mood for some serious distance, head northwest for about 200 miles and stand in awe of the majestic Devil's Tower. Or maybe you're all about that slow roll. If that's your vibe, the South Bighorn or Red Wall Scenic Backway is calling your name. This 102-mile route shaped like a horseshoe kicks off and wraps up on US 2026 west of Casper. Along this loop, you'll be cruising livestock trails, passing by Hole-in-the-Wall, checking out Hell's Half Acre, and cruising the Seminole to Alcova Backcountry Byway, all while soaking in some seriously epic views. So yeah, things might have changed since the days of cowboys and outlaws, but the spirit of adventure is alive and kicking. Whether you're following their trails or blazing your own, the story of this place keeps on trucking, and you're invited to be part of it. All right, that's it for today. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.